We are live. Hello, everybody. I'm John Ashton.
Live.
I am live. I'm awake. I'm up. Jeff Smith live from the Golf Cave.
That's right. Here at
Cool?
Timbergate Studio. I'm having a great time this morning. Already gave one golf lesson early. Now here it is time to talk to all of our friends on Facebook.
You know, we're going to talk about some misconceptions. Some of the things we've been told that may or may not be right. You know, Phyllis Diller once asked if your golf pro ever told you to keep your head down. She said, I figured out why he says that. It's so you won't see him laughing. That would be the only reason. The only reason to keep your head down. Because you're not supposed to do that.
Here's a couple things that I talk to students a lot. You know, and they always come in and they bring that with them. Like that's a supposed to do in golf, right? There's certain things that you're supposed to do. And, you know, where does this thing even come from, right? Where does this thought about you got to keep your head down? Where's that coming from? You know, because they're all sitting there going, all right, I got to do that. Can you imagine if you just watch the best players in the world on TV from years ago, they don't keep it down. They all finish facing up, pointing that way, don't they? Isn't that how they finish?
They do.
Yeah. They don't keep it down. It happens to be at certain points in the golf swing facing down, but as you come around, it comes up. But where do they get this thought that it's keeping the head down? Well, look, it's a detrimental thing because it stops forward motion from happening. But think of this, John, the covers of magazines that are continuously coming at us. What do they show us? Impact position. So what do you see here?
Head down.
Heads down, turning through. They keep putting that picture on the cover of a magazine. Keeps perpetuating what people continue to hear is keep your head down, keep your left arm straight. Can you imagine if they put this on the cover of magazines more? Mm-hmm. My left arm's not rigid straight. There's a little bit of a bend, but my face is now over here. Or this one. What if they put that on the cover of a magazine? My arms are bent, my face is over here.
It would get very confusing.
You see, it's a matter of what people continue to get that information coming from somehow. But so many pictures of magazines, because we all know that impact is supposed to be the best deal, right? It's what we're trying to get. Well, they get it, and they get those images, and it keeps perpetuating this thought about you have to keep it there. The trouble is that, can you imagine for a second, John, if we were teaching basketball off of still photos of a moment in time of Michael Jordan falling back, tongue sticking out. What if we taught basketball in positions and we said you have to do that? Everybody would realize that that's just an utterly ridiculous thought.
Right.
But yet we do it in golf, right?
Yeah.
So in golf, we have a swing that takes a second to go down and through. And yet because of the miracle of photography and high-speed video, we get to capture that one moment. But you see, there's still human beings putting that one moment out there all the time.
Right.
We choose that. And it continues to perpetuate that thought about head down, left arm straight.
Let me ask you a question, man.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you've got any questions, you want just ask Jeff anything, just put it in the comments here on Facebook, and Jeff will be able to read it and we'll answer the question immediately, if not sooner. But the keeping the head down thing, one person once told me that not keep your head down, but watch the club hit the ball. Because if you move your head away from looking at where the ball is before you strike it, that's when you start taking up, 14 inches of turf behind the ball or whatever.
You mean like this?
Yeah.
So ask David Duval or Annika Sorenstam. I think both of them made it to #1 player in the world at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they kept it down or were they turning their face forward. The truth is their face was following the rotation of their body quicker than most people.
But they were looking at the ball when the club hit it, weren't they?
I'm assuming that their eyeballs were fixed on it, right?
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Right? So right now, John, I'm looking directly at the camera, and yet I'm turning my face
Gotcha.
both directions.
Gotcha.
My eyes are independent of my head, right? So I can actually watch the front of the golf ball. Note that I said the front.
Right.
We'll get to that in a moment. But I can allow my face to rotate with my body. Can you imagine the thought that you somewhat brought up is that, if you let that happen, then you're going to hit behind the ball? You've heard that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said you've just heard if you
I've
don't look at it, you're going to hit behind it.
Yeah.
What makes you say you're going to hit behind it, John?
Well, because that's the history makes me say that.
Right. So maybe it's possible that you're hitting behind it because your chest is too low and the club bottoms out back here to the right. Maybe it's possible that you tilted to the right and the right shoulder dropped, and then that moved the bottom of the club arc back there. Right. Maybe those are the reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of people, John, that come in. They tell me, well, I lifted my head up, so I'll do this. My head's down and it's up and down and up. And I make note that my head is way up. And yet here I am thumping the turf. And then I even do this, looking over there. And those two things are independent of each other. They don't have a darn thing to do with each other. About the contact point and where the head is. I can twist it to the left. I can still make my same point in contact. I can lift it up. It isn't the head. Now, if we get lower in our posture coming down, we could chunk behind it because we lowered the center of our swing circle and the club dropped down and it landed behind. Sure, that came in contact with the ground sooner. Or I could tilt to the right, lowering the right shoulder, and I could hit behind it. Well, if I wanted to hit in front of it, I could tilt forward. And the swing circle would enter more forward. The low point would be more forward, be in front of the golf ball if I did that.
Right.
So it's more to do with levels of the body than it is anything to do with the head.
Okay.
So we talk about common things that are misconceptions in golf. I want to bring up one other point. People say, keep your head down. Now, granted, for most golfers in the world, they swing it back, and at this moment in the swing, back up here, the face is pointed back off to the right, and as it moves through here, the face rotates toward the middle, and the head appears to be down, and then it moves through, and then it rotates through. But that's with most good players. They're not trying to keep their head down at all. They're just looking to plow through the golf ball and finish up here. The people that try to keep it there wind up not swinging very hard because they just basically slowed their whole body and arm swing down. And then they wind up hurting their back because all they're doing is hanging back because they think they got to keep their head there. And they play bad golf.
Yeah.
Bad backs. So, folks that you're listening to me out there, get rid of that thought. Just get rid of it altogether.
Okay.
I'm going to hit a couple shots so you can see them side on, and I'm going to explain something about what you're going to see. John, I want you to watch my head. Okay?
I will. Sure.
So I'll explain it first. My head's somewhat floating. Now, I know that sounds kind of funny, right? It's like a ghost floating around. No, it's really not. But it's floating because it pivots wherever my body takes it. I'm not trying to lower it nor raise it. I'm just staying in my posture and I'm swinging, turning my body. And if my head drops a little bit and then turns a little bit, so be it. Make sense?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay. So a simple shot, and at the moment of impact, my chest was turned past the golf ball, my arms were straight, my head was facing the golf ball, and then right after impact, I was turning through and rising up, wasn't I?
Yes.
Isn't that what you see out of every great golfer?
Yeah.
Almost all the time.
Yeah, it is.
You see a lot of new golfers and a lot of bad golfers trying to keep their head down. So please, if you're out there listening to us, watching us, get away from that as quick as you can.
Head
John,
down. Don't worry about it.
Get rid of it, right? Just get rid of it. What about that left arm straight thing?
What about that left arm straight thing, man?
Well, I touched on it a little bit, right? At that moment of impact, we're seeing an awful lot of straight lead arms, right? We're seeing a lot of that. But we're not seeing it over here. They're folded over there. On the way back over here, we see some that are absolutely rigid and some that have a bend.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like that thing is an absolute must in order to play good golf.
Mm-hmm.
It does, with many players, fold a little bit up here and then straighten out down here and then fold completely up there.
Well, see, that's a question I had for you, too, because the first time we played together, I noticed that your left arm bends in the backswing much more than you would normally think a golf pro would bend their left arm on the backswing.
Right. So, yet you still saw me hit high, long, straight golf shots.
Yeah, I did. And it was obnoxious, Jeff.
Put that question with that visual together, you would realize that that is not a must.
No.
Now, Rory McIlroy is rigid, right?
Yep.
Tiger Woods is extended with a little slight bend. Mm-hmm. Dustin Johnson is not rigid. Justin Thomas is not rigid. Jordan Spieth is not rigid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not an absolute to good golf. So I would encourage everyone out there to not make that one of those things they have in their head that they think is an absolute to play good golf.
Right.
Because I notice when a lot of people come to me and they lock an arm, they lock a joint, they become a very stiff, unathletic person.
Mm-hmm.
We don't move well when we lock joints. I'm not suggesting that Rory McIlroy is a freak of nature because he locks his elbow joint on the way back into the top of his backswing. He's not a freak of nature for that reason alone. He's just an amazing player, and he happens to do it. I'm sure there are tons of golfers out there who happen to do it, but I'm talking about the beginner to average golfer right now. Don't put that one into your little computer up here that says this thing must be done that way, because that's not true.
I know it's not safe to equate a golf swing with a baseball swing, but I have never seen a baseball player swing a bat with a locked joint in their arm. And they swing that thing so powerfully, so fast. But when they make contact with the ball, their arms are extended and straight for the most part. That's right. It's the same thing with golf, right? As long as your arms are straight and at the point of contact of the ball, you're going to be fine.
Right. We're trying to get as wide a swing arc as possible. So it really does help to have our arms, on the way down, extended out. Mm-hmm. The most, of course, right in the impact zone, right?
Right.
But my point is that we don't want this little folded narrow arc and then it widens out only right there, comes in
Right.
very angular, doesn't come in very circular, and doesn't come in wide, and it's not picking up enough club head speed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
One of the things that we know about width of arc is that it is one of the things that we can do to widen out our swing arc because the club moves faster. So we try to keep our arms further away and not pulled in. They're further out. They're more extended.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking for that to build up some speed.
Gotcha.
But that doesn't mean we have to go to the point of locking our joint and becoming unathletic and slow it down.
Right.
Essentially, we're talking about diminishing returns.
Yeah, it becomes counterproductive at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
I like to talk to people about too much of a good thing no longer being a good thing. Mm-hmm. And that's one of them, right? Where extended arms and a wider swing arc can be a very good thing up to a certain point. Think of other things in your life, John, that you like a lot that are a good thing. And then too much of that good thing is no longer a good thing. How about pizza?
Yeah.
How about donuts?
Oh, yeah.
All right. How about beer?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Right? So those things are good things, but too much of them turns into a bad thing. Mm-hmm. So the same thing happens with that arc, trying to keep your arms extended. As soon as we begin to lock our joints, it's no longer a good thing. So we're trying to keep that. I don't want to say everything in moderation because we're trying to push it to the performance levels that we can.
Sure.
But we got to be careful with that.
Yeah. If you have any questions, very simple. You're on Facebook. Just write a question or make a comment in the comment section, and we'll be able to see it. Pass it on to Mr. Jeff Smith.
Love to see some questions out there for some of our viewers. I know we've got people out there watching.
Yeah, definitely. And you need to work closer to the microphone before you talk. This was admittedly kind of a spur of the moment thing. We decided to do it last night, and here we are this morning. However, if you were to go to thoseweekendgolfguys.com right now and just sign up for our Drinking and Driving Digest newsletter, we are going to actually think in advance for the next one, and all of the subsequent live from the Golf Cave shows with Jeff. And we will tell you the time and the place and the date, etc., in that Drinking and Driving Digest newsletter. And also, if you're local here in Louisville area, we're going to be out at Chariot Run Golf Course doing a live local radio show Sunday. And love you to come on out. We'll have some Golf Guys hats and some stuff for you too. So come on by, say hello. And we would like that. So now, without any further ado, back to Mr. Jeff Smith, live in the Golf Cave.
So another thing that's a common misconception in golf is, the gripping of the club, right? I see a lot of people come to me, and the first thing they do is they have a grip that is palm facing palm and thumbs on top. Like they're praying in church, but they're tilted down.
Because that's what they saw on page 92 of the last Golf magazine, man.
Right. Because what they're looking at is a flat left wrist coming into impact, and it's that way, but the thumb is never dead on top. But here's the thing, John, and for everybody out there, if they were to just tip over and drop their arms down and look at their left hand, I'm talking to right-handed golfers now, look down at your left hand and look how it naturally hangs, that's the best place for you to put your hand on the club. Now, most people don't naturally hang with their thumbs pointed dead forward and palm facing palm. Most people are hanging on about a 45-degree angle with those thumbs.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody whose natural is hanging with the thumb like that. Yeah.
They're really thin people up top here, right? Because their arms dangle down. They're just, they're all skin and bones, really. As soon as you get a bunch of people that have some sort of meat up into here, right? All of a sudden the elbows go out.
Yeah.
Right? Think of the big muscle-bound bodybuilder people. Right? they get a lot of going on up in here, and their elbows go out, and then their hands hang like this. Well, they couldn't even swing a golf club if they put their hands together like that. What we're trying to do is match bodies.
Gotcha.
Right? So we want to kind of blow out the misconception of you're supposed to have this. Like if you just started the game and no one was to teach you a good way for you to hold the club, and you just put your hands together in a praying fashion right here, I'm going to tell you, you're going to suffer, because what you're going to get a lot of the time is your wrists are going to just collapse and flop around, because we can do two things with our wrist joints, this being one of them, and this up and down wrist cock being the other. So we can go side to side in a flapping, slapping kind of way, or cocking the wrist up and down kind of way. Those are the things we can do. Well, so if you put your hands together in this way, this flapping back and forth happens easily and naturally, and that is really a weak position, as in physically not very strong, not weak as in golf verbiage. Okay? It's just not very strong. It's not very powerful. You can't deliver the club well, because most people's wrists, when put palm to palm, this is a weak joint right here in that position. But it's a much stronger position when your arms naturally hang down. Hey, we got Mark Hunter on the line with us. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Mark. And we're doing the scary Texas Chainsaw Massacre version now, because my light just blew.
That's okay. It looks better on you that way. So as we talk about this, you put your left hand on the way your left hand naturally hangs down. And here's how to make it even easier is put the club on your left leg. Line it up on your left leg underneath your left shoulder. Let your arm hang down and place it on there the way your left arm naturally hangs, and then pick the club up. And now all of a sudden, it can work much better. John, you've got a poltergeist in your house.
I do.
So all I've done is put my hand in its natural hanging position, which is a position stronger, not golf speak stronger, but in terms of physical strength, I can move my club and control where it goes. It is in a physically stronger position when my hand is hanging where my hand naturally hangs. So I want everybody to learn to put your left hand on, for the right-handed golfers, your lead hand, right? Just put it on the way that it naturally hangs, and then it will be able to cock a little bit more diagonally instead of just straight up to down, and it will be a little bit stronger, and you'll be able to deliver the club back to the golf ball stronger, more powerfully. I want to make sure that everybody gets that. I'm not using golf speak when I say the words weaker or stronger.
Right.
There is that golf terminology that messes up an awful lot of people. I want to stay away from that. I like using it English when we talk about golf, because everybody kind of gets that.
Yeah, we speak English.
When I say weaker or stronger, I am talking about its physical strength position.
Right.
That could work best. I have an easier time holding this club horizontally and maneuvering it around, because I can hold on. It's in a much more powerful position for me to hold this club. If I went back and did this palm on palm position and put my shaft up the middle and did that, and I pick it up, I now have strain in my wrist right here that I did not have before to hold this club straight out. I would instantly want to be cocking this up to make it lighter, because it's not as physically strong in this hanging out position. But when I go back, put the club under my left arm, put my left arm on the way it naturally hangs, I now can pick this club up, and there is no strain in my wrist right here at all to hold this club. I could stand here and do this all day where someone in that weaker position would be straining right now to just hold the club.
Right.
So I want to make sure that people don't have the misconception that this palm facing palm, thumbs on top grip is going to help. It's physically not as strong, but here's the other thing. It also creates a slice. Now, you're going, wait a minute. How does that happen? Right. Slow your roll there, Jeff. What do you mean? Let's talk about that. All right, John, behind me, you can see this rod on the ground, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
So this yellow rod right here.
Yeah.
Let's call that the target line. All right, I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to roll it a little bit. You can see that? Is that pretty clear to everybody? John, you can see that well?
See it well, yeah.
Okay. So let's think. If I put this on here where my thumb's on top and the back of my hand is toward the target in that praying palm on palm, thumb on top grip like that, if I do that and I cock my wrist up and down, because that's the way the wrist joint works. We always cock it in the direction that the thumb is pointed, right? So if I'm doing that, now I'm going to put this in relationship to this target line. If I cock that wrist up, where's the club head, John? Out there.
Yeah.
On the other side of the ball, right?
Yeah.
And as I uncock my wrist, it drops down to this side. Isn't that what we complain about, where the club is coming from the other side, coming to this side and cutting across it?
Yeah.
Creating a slice?
It is.
Oops. Let's view that a couple times. I'll put a ball down so we can see that and go, hey, look. Just cocking my wrist in the direction that I'm cocking it for the thumb goes, I am creating the club coming down across. Even if I'm swinging from back here, which is inside, and my arms are coming from the inside right here, as soon as I uncock my wrists, my club just went to the other side of the golf ball and coming in, didn't it?
It did. That explains a lot, doesn't it, huh?
Explains a lot. Ruh-roh. Right? Okay, so now, John, look at how my left hand hangs down naturally. See where that knuckle is?
Yep.
It's no longer here, is it? It's now.
No, it's on top.
Thumb points. The knuckle's now on top. That's how my hand hangs down.
Yeah.
My thumb's over here. So I'm going to hold it like that. So now when I cock my wrist in the direction that joint now points, it's no longer going straight up, is it?
No.
Oh. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Not swinging, just cocking my wrist in the way that I can cock my wrist in the direction that my thumb points. Now look at where that club's coming in.
Ain't that amazing?
Doesn't get to the other side of the ball, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Uh-oh. Lots of people out there slicing.
Yeah.
They got that grip. So let's be sure why we're putting our hands on the club. Don't do it because you just heard it and you thought about it that way. And you went, oh, yeah, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do because it's symmetrical. No, we're not interested in symmetry. We're interested in function. So that's a better understanding of why, from a functional perspective, when you see that. So I want everybody out there seeing that to go, oh, how about that?
I want you to do me a favor, buddy. I want you to do me a favor.
Yes.
We're going to do a little bit of a more close-up shot like now.
Yeah.
Go through again, putting the club against your left leg and just letting your arms go so everybody watching can get the idea of how to find what would be the right grip for themselves.
So hands hanging down naturally. Look, just dangling those arms, dropping it right on top of the club. My knuckle stayed right where I didn't shoot it on the club.
There we go.
That was it. Just put it on.
Yeah.
So the big key here is understanding that I just want my arm in its natural hanging position to start with. I play a lot better golf. So here's a thought. stop putting the club in the middle and then having to do that. Because if I tried that now with my hand hanging like this and I try to move it over here, now I get some strain in my forearm. It feels really weird to hold it like this.
Right.
So people will go, oh, I'll just turn it back because it's no stress. And they're right back to where they started. Put the club under the shoulder. Let the arm hang right on top of it. Grab it how your arm hangs down and realize that that thumb points off to the side of the shaft over here. The joint of where that thumb is at the base of the thumb, that wrist joint right there.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, we cock that in the only direction we can cock it, which is pointed essentially wherever the thumb's pointed. And now look at where that thing hinges to. Notice I'm not swinging my arm or anything. I'm just cocking my wrist. And look where that club's going.
Yeah.
Backing up behind, down, out, and in front. It does not get to the other side of the golf ball and come back at me in a cut fashion at all. So think about that for a second, people. It's how we're built. I'm just looking at it from a position of strength, and I'm looking at it in a position of where does the club go. It's an important thing.
There are two questions that pop into my head right now because of that.
Yes.
Number one, does that way of getting the grip with the club leaning against your left leg and you get more comfortable, it would seem to me then that it would make sense that the ball then would be a little bit further forward in your stance than normal because you've set up correctly. And second would be, what was the second part? Oh, the second part is, and probably totally unrelated, but if you need to do a cut, what you've just basically proven is that you can change the direction of the ball flight by your grip.
Absolutely you can. There's no doubt about it. That's one of the biggest things that we do is we change our connection to the club to alter the face position as it touches the ball. And we also alter where the ball is to where the face is going to be within that swing. So there are adjustments that can and might possibly should be made to do just that. Mm-hmm. So
I love it when I'm right.
I get that. You absolutely have listened to me quite well over the years, right?
I take notes and stuff, man. Yeah.
So ball position. So let's look at what a ball position could be. So here's somebody holding the club like this, and they're now cocking their wrist, and they're now enlightened. And so what I want to do is I want to have them just swing and make some swings, and let's start to see where their club strikes the ground first. Landing spot, right? Mm-hmm. Not where is it the deepest into the turf. Where does it first touch the turf on a regular, normal, athletic practice swing? I want to see what the point of contact is with the ground. And I'm betting that it's going to be awfully close to the spine line, wherever that is. If they're a tilt back person, the right shoulder is going to go lower. It's going to be back here. If they're leveled out, it's going to be real close to the middle. If they happen to tilt a little forward, it's going to be closer to the front. Mentioned that a little earlier. But I want to see where they are in their best swings. So I'm going to have them take about 5 swings. And then I'm going to see, on some relatively tight cut grass, like the driving range tee box or something like that. I want to see where they start to enter the turf, because wherever they enter the turf is where I'm going to put the back of the ball. Is going to be just barely behind it. I'm going to put the bottom of the golf ball right where they enter the turf. And all of a sudden, they're going to strike the ball beautifully. It's going to be clean. It's going to be flying toward their target. So we fixed the club face position. Right. Find out where that's going to land, put the ball there, and then say, here you go. Go play golf. have some fun,
and play mo better.
Yeah,
Definitely.
better.
There's nothing better than to hear that clean thwack and not feel the club reverberating because you hit it on the sweet spot and everything is cool, and watching it fly relatively close to where you were aiming. And
right.
There ain't nothing better, man. And these are a few misconceptions that we have all been told at one point or another in our careers of learning how to play this game that are wrong and have basically held us back rather than let us progress forward as far as breaking 80 or 90 or 100 or whatever we wanted to.
Yeah, and there's a lot of truth in that. And we're speaking to the masses here. We're speaking to the people who just have too many things going on that are not simple enough. And they try to do one thing or another. They read something in a magazine, they watch something on television, and they get something from any other person that exists and that talks about golf. And then they try to put a whole bunch of things together, and they get this head full of, it's like alphabet soup. You don't know what you're going to get every spoonful. You don't know what's going to work together or not. And many times they don't. Here I am talking about things, from grip to delivery into the ground to where you put the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Those work together. Those are pieces that affect where the golf ball flies.
Right. Definitely.
That's an important kind of a deal. So
as you have you've long said this, it's just kind of the evangelical zeal with which you approach this thing, man. But it's how is your swing? It's not here is the golf swing. It's how do you swing? And let's make adjustments from that point on. But the easiest thing to do, start from the very beginning. It's a very good place to start, I've heard. And when you start to swing, the best place to start is with the grip. How are you holding that club? And the right way to do it is not necessarily with a prescribed pattern, but how do your arms hang? And that should dictate how you hold the club.
Yes, it should. I see so many people who just don't have that understanding, and they get it wrong as if, and then they get frustrated with golf. But I get people all the time that know that I'm a teacher and my students have an awful lot of success, but they don't want to take golf lessons because they're afraid to find out they've been doing it wrong. Well, Mark's got a question I was going to ask too is, okay, you got the natural position for the left. What do you do with the right hand? Mark just thinks like I think, right? We just yammered on about the left hand, but we got two of them, and I didn't talk about that, did I?
No.
So let's think. Mark, best question in the world, because it was leading me right into what I was going to anyway. I think this guy's been around me once or twice to know this. But remember, if I'm able to cock my wrists and it goes back and forth and back and forth, don't I want this hand to help it out? So I don't want it to argue with it.
Right.
And fight that. I want it to be in a position that does that same thing. So again, let's remember, what are we looking at? What do we want to happen? We want a club to go back and forth, up and down. So this right hand has to accommodate that. But remember what we can do. We can cock our wrist up to down, or we can do this, side to side.
Mm-hmm.
However I rotate my arm can let that happen. So what I'm looking for is something that matches what I want done here. This is pretty easy. So I've got this one, how it naturally delivers the club. So I'm going to put this one on the back side so that they both do the same job. I'm going to come in on the camera here side. Both wrists did the same thing with the club.
Mm-hmm.
They both folded and cocked, so to speak, in the exact same direction. So I put my hand on the side and closed the fingers. I got a lot of people that come to me and they go under.
Mm-hmm.
Now that folding goes down and then up and out. But what that also is going to do is roll on the way through. Right hand will roll over the left. Well, what do you think that's going to do with the club face, John?
Uh-huh.
Oops. That's not very straight up and down, is it?
No, not optimum. No, sir.
Unless I want one starting left of the planet and then going there. I don't want that. So the more under it is, the more the arm works out. People go, oh, wait a minute, I like that. My swing goes this way. I want it to go more this way, so I'll just put my hand underneath. The problem is, that would be the simplest solution to all of this swing direction problem is just put your hand underneath. The elbow would go in, and the arm would go out. That'd be the simplest solution ever if that's all it took, if that's all that was involved.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that arm doesn't stay in that position. It rolls.
Right.
So that means it's rolling the club. So if I had it here, and then I took it and did that, now the club face is facing hard left of where I want it, and I can no longer play golf because my ball is off the planet to the left.
Yeah, at least in the trees.
Somewhere.
And I've been there. Trust me, you don't like those trees.
So don't just automatically think that the solution is I just want to put my hand more underneath just so it'll turn the club face a little bit more left. It won't turn it a little bit with a lot of under. It'll turn it a lot. Mm-hmm. So does that mean it'll turn it if it was a little under? Yeah, that kind of makes sense now, doesn't it?
Yep.
Right. So let's start with how those joints work so that they can do the same job with the club and deliver the club to the ball, that they're doing the same job. They're both taking the club and cocking it back here and uncocking to down there. And you see the delivery of the club coming through, and it is moving from me, my side over here, to out to touch the ball. And that's the path of success for most people. So let's understand this right hand is a critical piece in what's going on. All I need to do is start it on the back side of the shaft. And when I say the back side, imagine the golf grip being square, where it has a flat top, a flat bottom, and two flat sides. Mm-hmm. I'm putting it on the back flat side, closing my fingers. Mm-hmm. That's how it is. Sometimes I tell people, hey, it's like 3 o'clock on the clock face, right? On the back side of the shaft. Mm-hmm. Right? But if you just imagined a square grip, and the top was flat, and the sides were flat, the bottom was flat, you'd be putting it on the back side of the shaft, holding it that way with your right hand. That's where it would go. Make sense?
It does. I tried that a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that I found, a couple of things that I found, I do want to throw out as a caveat. One is at first it doesn't feel right. It's a little bit awkward because you've never done it like that before.
Right.
But if you do that and you swing, it looks right and it works right. So get used to it. That's all I got to say.
That's something that I tell people a lot. And they're like, well, it's not initially that comfortable. Like, okay, so which are you after? Success or being comfortable in the next 5 swings? What do you want? Because if it's being comfortable, then you should have just sat home on your lazy boy and been comfortable.
Because it will be comfortable after a while.
But here's what happens is that people get really comfortable with the success they have pretty quickly.
Yeah.
They start to go, oh, that ball flight's what I want. Oh, it went a lot further. It went a lot straighter. I'll play a lot better golf and I won't lose as many golf balls. I think I'll do this more. This seems a little bit more comfortable now.
You'd be, it's remarkable how much more comfortable, how much more quickly it gets when you see how well it works. Yeah.
That's right. And what happens all the time, John, as you'll understand, people only are after the success. Yes, they want it to feel good. Of course they want to feel good, but there are three things. They want the ball to fly better. They want it to be solidly struck. They want more distance, and they want it to feel good. Those are the three basic tenets. Solidly struck, fly farther, feel good. They're complaining about the feel good part because it's different than what they got used to.
Right.
But sometimes I ask them if the shot feels good after a little while, and then all of a sudden they come around because it felt like solid contact to them. They watched the ball go, and the launch monitor said it definitely went farther, and they're like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Once again, Mr. Jeff told me true. So there you go.
Right.
All right. Hey, listen, just wrap up some things. Again, we've been going over the grip. It's a totally elemental part of the game, but so few of us do it correctly from the get-go.
Right.
Just follow Jeff's technique on how to do that, and you will be a happy camper. And don't worry about your head. Don't keep it down. Because, again, most golf pros that tell you that just so you won't see them laughing at you. Okay?
That's a good point.
And then a few other things. One is, again, we did decide to do this on the spur of the moment last night, and it worked. And we thank you for being here and for hanging with us. Thank you for watching after the fact, if that is indeed what you are doing. Go to thoseweekendgolfguys.com, because that is us. I'm John Ashton, host of the show. He is Jeff Smith, PGA, co-host of the show, and as you can tell from watching what he's been talking about, golf guru. Okay, so you can listen to the show on SB Nation Radio. You can listen to the show in its podcast form at thoseweekendgolfguys.com. But also sign up for our Drinking and Driving Digest newsletter, because we're going to give you a schedule of events, including these live from the golf caves or even live from the golf courses. Now that the season is finally here, we're going to be doing it on a semi-regular basis, and you need to know. So just subscribe to that, and you'll get all that information. Or just follow us here on the Facebook page, and you'll be alerted when we go live. That's an idea too. So we just don't want you to miss it, because if you miss an hour, you miss a lot. Although I probably have to pay somebody else to use that expression. I'm not sure. But I want you just to listen to the two things he said about grip and your head, and take it to heart and go out and practice. Use it. Excuse me. I used the P word, and I'm getting better at the P word. I can use it. I'm going to start doing it any day now. But go out and just use these techniques the next time you play, and you will be amazed at the difference and the improvement. The fewer slices, the fewer power fades, if you prefer, the fewer hooks and draws. The man knows what he's talking about, and those are very simple things to do. And if you do them, you say, well, that can't make a big thing. It's too simple. It is exactly what's going to make a big difference. Okay, there you go. Jeff, thank you.
It's a good wrap-up. Nicely done. I think you must have done that before, radio guy.
That's why I'm here making the big bucks, man. So until the next time we are live from the Golf Cave, Jeff, thank you very much, my man.
That's right. Thanks, everybody.